There comes a moment in a person's life that is not loud, dramatic, or extraordinary. It is quiet, almost indistinguishably so. Yet in this quiet moment, something begins to shift. You notice yourself becoming aware of an old pattern you have carried for years, perhaps for most of your life, a pattern of softening your words so others feel comfortable, a pattern of shrinking your needs so others can expand theirs, a pattern of handing out emotional permission, slips to everyone except yourself. It begins as a subtle discomfort in the mind, a quiet question whispered somewhere in the background. Why do I give so much of myself and receive so little in return? Psychology calls this an adaptive survival strategy. The tendency to please others in order to secure belonging, reduce conflict, or avoid rejection. It is not weakness, it is conditioning. But Machiavelli saw this centuries earlier. He understood that people-pleasing is not kindness. It is fear wearing the mask of virtue. He observed that the person who constantly seeks approval eventually loses something essential, the ability to exist authentically. They become an echo of other people's expectations, rather than the voice of their own inner truth. And there is a cost to this, a cost that accumulates slowly, quietly, invisibly. You begin to feel the emotional exhaustion of always being on call. You feel the strain of holding peace for others while neglecting peace within yourself. Your identity becomes porous, easily shaped by the preferences, moods, and demands of those around you. And in this subtle erosion, something sacred is lost: self-respect. This video is not about becoming cold or uncaring. It is about reclaiming the psychological boundaries that people-pleasing dissolves. It is about understanding with calm clarity why your desire to be liked often leads you into situations where you are overlooked, undervalued, or subtly manipulated. Machiavelli does not tell you to be cruel. He tells you to stop abandoning yourself. He reminds you that human nature, stable, predictable, and deeply patterned, responds not to self-sacrifice, but to self-possession. When you overextend, others adjust to the convenience. When you silence your needs, others forget you have them. When you make yourself endlessly available, you become quietly taken for granted. And this is not because people are inherently unkind, but because the human mind adapts to what is consistently offered. So the moment you begin to shift, slowly, gently, without anger, something begins to return. A sense of sovereignty, a clarity of where you end and others begin, a steady reclaiming of the inner space where your dignity, your voice, and your boundaries live. And so in this slow and reflective exploration, we will walk through 6 powerful psychological principles drawn from Machiavelli's writings and supported by modern behavioral science that will help dismantle the people-pleaser inside you. Not with force, but with truth. Let us begin. Number 1, understand that seeking approval makes you predictable. Machiavelli observed that the person who needs approval becomes easy to read and easy to use. Modern psychology echoes this. Approval-seeking behavior signals compliance, making others more likely to push boundaries or make demands. When you soften your stance to avoid disapproval, you unconsciously teach people what they can expect from you. Freedom begins with noticing where your need for validation silently dictates your actions. Most people never realize how deeply this reflex controls their daily decisions. They say yes when they want to say no, they over-explain themselves to maintain harmony, and they shrink their own desires to avoid disappointing others. This may look polite on the surface, but psychologically it forms a pattern of predictable compliance. something Machiavelli warned against centuries ago. Predictability reduces power. It makes you legible, malleable, and easily positioned into roles that do not serve your deeper nature. The moment others sense that your peace depends on their approval, they instinctively realize they can shape your behavior with nothing but subtle cues: silence, disappointment, or the threat of withdrawal. You begin to live not as an autonomous being, but as a reflection of external expectations. To break this cycle, you must understand a principle both Machiavelli and modern behavioral science agree on. Internal stability is the highest form of strength. A person who is anchored from within becomes psychologically opaque. They are harder to sway, harder to predict, and far more difficult to manipulate. The shift begins quietly. You start by observing your emotional triggers. Those moments when someone's reaction makes your stomach tighten or your voice soften. Instead of adjusting yourself to soothe the moment, you let the discomfort breathe. You allow silence to stand. You let the other person feel whatever they feel without rushing to protect them from their own emotions. This is how psychological boundaries form. Not through aggression, but through inner steadiness. People begin to sense that your choices come from a deeper place, not from a desire to be liked. And slowly the dynamic changes. Those who once pushed your limits stop testing them. Those who relied on your compliance learn that you are no longer shaped by their approval. You become respected not because you demanded respect, but because your self-possession quietly commands it. This is the essence of Machiavellian wisdom applied to everyday life. Power grows in the one who no longer asks permission to exist. When you release the need to be validated, you stop being predictable. And when you stop being predictable, you stop being controlled. Number 2. People respect what is self-defined, not self-sacrificed. People pleasers believe sacrifice earns affection. In reality, it earns expectation. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology gave language to it. He observed that the more a person bends to win approval, the more others begin to assume that bending is their natural posture. What starts as generosity quietly becomes obligation. What begins as kindness slowly morphs into a standard you are expected to maintain. And Machiavelli would warn you, once people grow accustomed to receiving something from you, they rarely consider the cost you pay to give it. They simply expect the pattern to continue. Psychological studies reinforce this truth. Researchers have found that when a person consistently prioritizes others at the expense of themselves, the brain of the recipient adjusts. It normalizes the support, integrates it, and eventually demands it. People-pleasing, therefore, does not cultivate affection. It cultivates dependence, entitlement, and imbalance. Yet the people-pleaser continues believing that one more sacrifice, one more yes, and one more emotional contortion will finally earn them the love they crave. Machiavelli, however, offers a radically different insight. Stability comes from clear identity, not continuous compromise. A person who stands firmly in who they are commands more respect than someone who shapeshifts to remain acceptable. Modern psychology agrees. Boundaries, honest, consistent, calm boundaries, create healthier relationships because they establish equilibrium. They prevent resentment from growing in the giver and prevent entitlement from growing in the receiver. The people-pleaser's internal logic tells them that saying no is dangerous, that withholding is unkind, and that self-preservation is selfish. But Machiavelli would say the opposite. He would argue that a person without self-respect cannot earn the respect of others. When you offer yourself without limit, you unintentionally communicate that your energy is abundant, your time is negotiable, and your needs are secondary. People may not consciously exploit this, but the imbalance becomes the invisible architecture of the relationship. Clear identity interrupts this pattern. It sends a subtle message. I exist beyond what I can do for you. When you hold to a boundary, you are not rejecting others. You are acknowledging your own humanity. You are reminding the world that your love, your attention, and your presence are meaningful, precisely because they are not endlessly available. Studies in relational psychology reveal that individuals with strong boundaries experience deeper trust, more emotional clarity, and less internal conflict. Mutual respect grows because each person recognizes the other as a complete self, not a tool for comfort or convenience. Machiavelli would tell you that power is not found in domination, nor is peace found in surrender. Power is found in self-definition. Peace is found in self-honoring. And when you stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable, you do not lose love. You filter it. You remove the conditional, and what remains is real. Number 3, kindness without limits turns into emotional debt. When you give without measure, others begin to believe they are entitled to your energy. Machiavelli warned that generosity, when misused, leads not to gratitude, but to entitlement. Healthy kindness requires structure. Without boundaries, kindness becomes self-erasure. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about human nature. People do not simply respond to what you give. They respond to what you permit. The moment your giving shifts from intentional choice to automatic habit, people stop seeing it as kindness and begin to see it as your duty. This shift is subtle, almost invisible at first. Someone asks for a little more of your time. Someone else expects you to tolerate behavior you once would have rejected. And because you are kind, because you want peace, you comply. But each silent compliance redraws the map of your identity. Your preferences are pushed to the edge. Your needs become an afterthought. Your emotional oxygen starts to thin. What begins as an act of goodwill eventually becomes a quiet form of self-betrayal. Machiavelli understood this psychological drift long before modern research confirmed it. Unrestricted giving causes others to raise their expectations, not their appreciation. In their eyes, the value of your effort decreases precisely because it is always available. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, they rewrite the story. Your giving is no longer a gift. It is what they believe you owe them. This is why true kindness must be structured. Your boundaries are not walls, they are definitions. They clarify where your responsibility ends and where someone else's begins. They teach others how to value your presence by limiting the ways in which they may use it. In Machiavellian terms, boundaries prevent the erosion of your autonomy, which is the foundation of all personal power. When you give without discernment, you create an imbalance. Others grow accustomed to receiving. You grow accustomed to shrinking. Your kindness slowly eats away at the edges of your identity until you become a background character in your own life. But when your kindness is deliberate, measured, and supported by a clear sense of self, it becomes a strength rather than a vulnerability. It stops being an invitation for exploitation and becomes a quiet standard, one that filters who can walk with you and who must fall away. Remember this: Kindness without boundaries is not kindness. It is a slow psychological disappearance. To preserve the integrity of your spirit, you must give, but you must give with awareness. You must offer your energy, but never at the cost of your essence. Number 4, your silence teaches others how to treat you. People pleasers often avoid expressing discomfort, believing silence maintains harmony. But silence communicates agreement. Machiavelli emphasized the strategic power of voice, measured, calm, and deliberate. Modern assertiveness psychology confirms this. Expression prevents resentment and restores balance. When you swallow your truth to avoid tension, you are not preserving peace. You are sacrificing yourself to maintain an illusion. Machiavelli understood that unspoken boundaries invite exploitation, not respect. In his writings, he often highlighted how rulers who remained silent in the face of subtle encroachments eventually found their authority diminished. The same happens internally. Every moment you silence your discomfort, you lose a piece of your sovereignty. Your emotional landscape becomes a territory others learn they can invade without consequence. Psychology refers to this as self-erasure, a gradual internal fading caused by chronic accommodation. People pleasers believe silence protects relationships, but in reality, silence destabilizes them. Resentment accumulates, tension hides beneath politeness, and authenticity withers. Machiavelli's wisdom aligns with this. Stability is not achieved through passivity, but through clarity. A boundary stated calmly is not an act of aggression, but an act of alignment. It allows others to understand the rules of engagement, and it allows you to remain whole within the interaction. When you choose to speak with intention, gently, firmly, precisely, you reclaim your psychological territory. You step out of the reactive, approval-seeking role and into the grounded posture of someone who knows their worth. Assertiveness research shows that people who express themselves honestly experience lower stress levels, healthier relationships, and stronger self-esteem. Machiavelli would say that this honest expression is not merely emotional hygiene, but strategic positioning. If you do not set the terms of engagement, someone else will, and they will rarely choose terms that protect your well-being. Expressing discomfort does not make you difficult. It makes you visible. It communicates that your inner world matters, that your boundaries are alive, and that you refuse to live as a shadow in your own life. This is the moment the people pleaser within you begins to die, not through force, but through illumination. When you finally speak, your voice becomes a line in the sand. You stop silently asking for permission. You begin living with intention rather than avoidance. And you discover that true harmony is not maintained by suppressing discomfort, but by respecting the integrity of all parties involved, including yourself. This is how Machiavellian wisdom quietly liberates the people pleaser, by teaching you that your voice is not a disruption to peace, but the foundation of it. Number 5, those who stand for everything end up standing for nothing. When you mold yourself to every expectation, you dissolve your psychological center. Machiavelli believed that consistency, not compliance, creates influence. Identity becomes strong only when it is shaped intentionally, not reactively. And this is where the people pleaser loses themselves. In the constant pursuit of approval, they abandon the very qualities that would have earned them genuine respect. When you bend too easily, you become predictable, and predictability weakens your psychological presence. Machiavelli understood that influence grows from a stable core, a foundation of principles, boundaries, and preferences that do not shift with every external pressure. In modern psychology, we call this an internal locus of control. It is the ability to remain rooted in your own evaluations rather than in the fluctuating opinions of others. People pleasers, however, outsource their sense of worth. They allow the emotional climate of those around them to determine their choices, tone, mood, and even self-perception. Over time, this erodes self-trust. When you cannot rely on your own inner compass, you look outward for direction, and in doing so, you relinquish your autonomy. Machiavelli would say that this makes you manipulable, not because others are inherently malicious, but because a person without self-defined edges naturally conforms to the edges of whoever stands closest. True strength, therefore, is not in being agreeable. It is in being anchored. When you choose your responses instead of reacting for approval, you reclaim psychological sovereignty. This doesn't mean becoming harsh or unkind. Machiavelli did not advocate cruelty without purpose. He advocated clarity, clarity of self, clarity of intention, clarity of stance. When you move through the world with that clarity, others instinctively adjust to you because your presence communicates an unspoken message. I know who I am. And paradoxically, when you stop trying to please everyone, you become more respected, more trusted, and more valued. Not because you have hardened yourself, but because you have solidified yourself. The world responds differently to someone who operates from a defined center. That center is where influence is born, and it is where the people pleaser must learn to return. Number 6, stop negotiating your worth. People pleasers negotiate their value with every gesture of self-minimization. Machiavelli instructs the opposite. Hold your worth as a non-negotiable. Behavioral psychology agrees. Self-respect sets the blueprint for how others treat you. When you value yourself, the world recalibrates around that truth. To elaborate, the habit of people-pleasing is not a sign of kindness. It is a psychological survival strategy formed when a person learns, consciously or unconsciously, that approval equals safety. Each time you silence your needs, overextend yourself, or shrink in order to maintain harmony, you reinforce a quiet internal message. My worth is conditional. Machiavelli would regard this as a dangerous foundation, not because it is morally wrong, but because it weakens your autonomy. He believed that power begins with an unshakable internal stance, a refusal to negotiate your dignity. Psychology echoes this principle through the concept of self-schema, the internal map that teaches others how to treat you. When your schema is rooted in self-respect, your boundaries become clear, your voice becomes steady, and your presence becomes grounded. People respond to that clarity, often subconsciously. Respect is calibrated from the inside out. This shift is not about aggression or dominance, it is about alignment. When you stop bending to win favor, you stop broadcasting scarcity. Your energy changes from I need acceptance to I am anchored in my own value. Machiavelli would argue that such inner firmness creates predictability, and predictability creates influence. Behavioral studies affirm that those who maintain strong personal boundaries are perceived as more competent, more trustworthy, and more emotionally stable. In essence, the moment you stop negotiating your worth, others instinctively rise to meet it. What feels like a quiet internal adjustment becomes an unmistakable external signal. You no longer operate on borrowed confidence, you stand on your own. As this exploration comes to a close, take a moment to feel the quiet shift within you. Nothing dramatic, nothing forceful, just a subtle, steady awareness forming inside your mind. The people pleaser within you was never your enemy. It was a younger version of you, a version that believed survival depended on being agreeable, adaptable, and endlessly available. But now you are stepping into a different kind of presence, a presence shaped not by fear, but by clarity, not by approval, but by self-respect. Machiavelli's wisdom reminds us that strength is not loud, and it is not harsh. Real strength is silent alignment with your own principles. It is the ability to remain kind without dissolving, generous without disappearing, and helpful without abandoning yourself. This is the inner equilibrium the people-pleaser could never access. But you can. Every boundary you set is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of returning to yourself. Every moment you choose honesty over accommodation, you reclaim a part of your identity that had been quietly traded away. With each step, your life becomes less about pleasing others and more about living truthfully. The world may not immediately applaud this shift, but your inner life will. Your mind will breathe easier. Your spirit will stand taller. If this message resonated with you, allow it to linger. Watch it again when you feel yourself slipping back into old habits. Let it serve as a reminder that your worth is not conditional. Your value is not negotiable, and your voice does not need permission to exist. Thank you for spending this time here, in this space of calm reflection and psychological growth. Move forward gently, and with the quiet confidence of someone who has finally stopped abandoning themselves. When you're ready, the next chapter awaits.